All right. Williams, Cenk, Uygur, Brett Erlich. Let's go, Brett. Wait, that's a different story.
Let's go, Brandon. Brandon is the TD today. So
well, there you go.
That's the Brandon with an EN. We'll go.
Yeah, well, that's I'm sure what they intended. Okay, that's a story in the rundown. In fact, it's the first one up. You'll see it in a second. We've got lots of fun stories for you guys. The right wing, of course, has turned on each other. That's always delicious. Candace versus Donald Trump. Navarro jumps in off the top rope. But which side is he on? Oh, it's the Vax Wars. You're gonna love it. Okay, are we in the holiday spirit? I guess. We're gonna have a fun show, I guess. All right, Brett Erlich, you can tell I'm in a mode.
Oh, Anna, I just want to say before we get into this story, that one, the Vax Wars, I downplayed it in the morning meeting how much I wanted to do that story. JR will be doing it in the second hour. I was very nice and courteous. I was like, I'm not gonna do it. I want it so bad. I've been thinking about it all day. So everybody stay tuned. It's gonna be an amazing, amazing story later on in the show. But we have news to get to, so let's get right into it.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well. Merry Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree.
So that moment you just watched took place in basically a question and answer time for NORAD, where the president and first lady basically were taking questions like happens every year. You can call NORAD and find out where Santa Claus is, but a certain individual decided to take advantage of that very heartwarming moment to just totally own Joe Biden in a way that's universally funny, not pathetic in any way. You might be wondering what was the context for all of that. We're gonna later on show you what happened when that man went on Steve Bannon's show in order to explain himself. But first, here is the extended clip of the guy who told Joe Biden, "Let's go, Brandon."
Oh, that's great.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, oh, that's wonderful that you have a 2-year-old. Well, have a Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful Christmas.
And by the way, you guys have to be in bed by 9 o'clock, and asleep between 9 and 12, or he doesn't show up.
This isn't to you, Jared. This is to the kids.
That's right.
Well, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas.
Yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas as well.
Oh,
Merry Christmas, and let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon. I agree. Hey, by the way, where are you in Oregon? Where's your home? I think we lost him.
I just wanted to play that whole extended clip because if you thought the "Let's go, Brandon" moment was the cringiest part of it, no, it wasn't. The entire minute-long thing. We'll show you what he said when he had to explain himself to Steve Bannon. But Cenk, what are your reactions?
So a couple of things. Number one, Merry Christmas. Go F yourself. I'm a right winger who believes in family values. Do you? It's okay. Pick one or the other. Hey, we're rude, we're terrible, we love to insult the others. I just told the president to F off. That's what "Let's go, Brandon" means. It means F you, Joe Biden. It's from a chant. You all know this, right? The only person who apparently doesn't know it in the country is Joe Biden. That was amazing. He repeated it, okay? So was it slightly amusing in that way? Yeah, sure. But you can't say, no, we're family values, we're upright Christians. No, we hate the war on Christmas. We're all about Jesus Christ. I don't think Jesus was one to be much like, "Let's go, Brandon, let's go, Brandon." Okay, so it doesn't really quite feel like the Christmas spirit there. Somebody's got to tell Joe Biden like the world's simplest internet memes, especially ones associated with him, so he doesn't repeat it.
There's so much about this that is fascinating and pathetic and ridiculous. When I first watched it, I was like, I'm not sure Joe Biden doesn't know what this is. But maybe he's a seasoned enough politician, but like watching it 3 and 4 times, I just couldn't help but go, yeah, he doesn't know what this is. I don't know what Joe Biden's doing most of the time. I feel like he doesn't know what he's doing maybe 1/5 of the time.
At least.
But I just don't know how immersed in all this stuff he is to know it or not. But what strikes me is like this guy, it is just like a Christmas show where you call in and you have your kids there, and your kids get to ask, where is Santa Claus? And oh my God, the president's there. It's supposed to be a time where you just, for the benefit of your children, you lie to them. And I feel like this guy, he can exercise his First Amendment right. Don't begrudge him taking advantage of an opportunity to do that. But just looking at it, man, this is pretty pathetic to do it in this moment. And I love all the right wingers who are just fist bumping like, I totally nailed it because I'm so bold that I used the code to tell the president on Christmas to go F himself.
Look, again, I'm not mainstream media. I don't really care, all right? So I'm not offended by Let's Go Brandon, but don't get offended when people say it back. Oh, by the way, go F yourself and Donald Trump. He's a loser and he should go F himself. And I could get way more graphic than that. But I know you're not offended because that wouldn't make any sense. You say it to Biden without any hesitation at all. In fact, I'd like to say in the spirit of Christmas, F Donald Trump, what a loser. Okay, you guys don't mind, right? Because I don't mind. I just don't want you to catch feelings for some reason. I mean, you're not a beta, right? So, okay, now here's the funny part. Remember, this is the same show, the thing that they do where they track Santa. It used to be cute, like, oh yeah, well, where's Santa? Nothing's cute anymore. Okay, let's remember when Trump, in that same situation, said to a 7-year-old, are you still a believer in Santa? Because it's 7, it's marginal, right? He said that.
It's so ridiculous.
He said that to a 7-year-old.
That is. I don't know, yes, I am a dead inside 39-year-old guy, so I kind of respect that more. But it's the reason I selected that clip to play from that part is Joe Biden just got done saying oh my God, it's so amazing you have a 2-year-old, and the guy sitting in the living room with the 2-year-old. He explained himself to the Oregonian, and here's a quote from Jared Schmeck, the guy.
Okay, it's perfect. His name is Schmeck.
We were talking on the morning meeting today how I love the word schmeckle. It's just it's not even a word, but it's Jared Schmeckle says, at the end of the day, I have nothing against Mr. Biden. What?
Really?
But I'm frustrated because I think he can be doing a better job. I mean no disrespect to him.
No. You can't have it both ways. You can tell him to F off or you can have respect for him, but you can't have both. Okay, so Schmeckle, stop lying. Okay, so don't worry, he's gonna stop lying when he gets to right-wing media.
Right, and so here's the thing. So I'm gonna tell you what happened right before he went on Steve Bannon's show, and then how he did that thing that we know right-wingers to do all the time after they try to be decent for a half a second, and then they get caught by all their peers who are like, no, that's wrong. You've got to be the worst person at all time for no reason. So here is a quote that from the Oregonian who did a write-up after talking to him saying, Schmeck said he's not a Trumper, but described himself as a free-thinking American and follower of Jesus Christ. Now, this subject came up when he went on the War Room with Steve Bannon on the Real American Network, I think it's on, and that I am not a Trumper argument seemed to vanish, as you'll know by his headwear. But pay attention for the extended clip and what happens at the end as Bannon tosses to break. But here is Jared Schmeck explaining himself.
They both picked up the phone. It was clear that it was not a recording. I didn't know it was being live streamed at that time. And throughout the conversation, it popped into my head, and I guess the rest is history. For me, Let's Go Brandon is, and I've said it in other articles, I am a Christian man. For me, it's God first and foremost. I don't follow any one man blindly. Some of the media has run with that and said I don't support Donald Trump. That's absolutely false. Donald Trump is my president, and he should still be president right now. The election was 100% stolen. So I just want to make that clear.
It's more than you can say in a day, but you summed it up in about 3 seconds when you actually said that. And we're a very big part of the FJB movement also. And we think it summarizes a political philosophy of everything you talked about. That the elections have consequences, and stolen elections have catastrophic consequences. And we're seeing those catastrophic consequences all around us, and so is all America, because that's why they're imploding. That's why, with this chaos that's happened over the Christmas holidays, it's just insane.
So FJ Biden in excelsis Deo, like it was, he's talking about F the president. I thought it was like a scene from an Adam McKay movie where like they just bring in the music that is the complete opposite of whatever ridiculousness this guy is spouting. But this Jared Schmeck says he's a Christian, and that explains everything in his life. What do you think?
There's so many great things in here. For me, it's God first and foremost. That's why I like to tell presidents and everyone else that I can find, F off, okay? That's what God first and foremost, and he told me to go F yourself, okay? Jesus Christ. I mean, really? And by the way, yeah. I mean, that movie, Don't Look Up, had mixed reviews, which is hilarious because the media caught feelings over it because it was so over the top, but completely accurate. So we're having a legitimate debate about whether FU is the actual Christmas spirit. Like the right wingers are like, well, I mean, God and Jesus, and so F the president, right? Yeah. Right? And so now we have to counter. No, that's not really the Christmas spirit. I mean, this is the insanity of current day America. So let me go to our members here and you guys using Super Chat because they made such great points. I love how smart our audience is. Vadim Alagan wrote in, when the Pope goes out to his balcony in the Vatican, the crowd cheers, F Satan, don't they? Don't they? Isn't that a thing? And the right wing will be like, yeah, I think that's what I think e pluribus unum means. No, wait, that doesn't have anything to do with the Pope. That's not, all right, anyway. Super Greggy Pants wrote in, yet a once in a lifetime the chance to critique the president with an audience of millions, and instead you say, let's go Brandon, if only Cenk had called in. Now, thank you for saying that, it's very nice of you. But yeah, if you wanted to do a legitimate critique, that would be an amazing time to do it. It's still not exactly the appropriate atmosphere, but if you were like, what happened to you canceling $10,000 in student loans?
Right.
And then that would get a ton of attention. Everybody like, wait a minute, he did say that, and he didn't cancel the student loans. Oh my God, Joe Biden's a liar. Now that is actually a much more powerful critique of Joe Biden, more effective critique of Joe Biden, and puts him on the spot. But the right wing does not have an effective critique of Joe Biden because they actually agree with almost all of his legislation or his lack of legislation. He passed one corporate bill, that's the infrastructure bill, which the right wing loves. Okay, they pretend, oh no, go, he twisted our arms into giving corporations giant deals. Oh, golly gee, we are so mad at Joe Biden. In fact, a lot of the Republicans even voted for that bill. That's how you know it's filled with corporate donor goodies, because they never give him a vote otherwise. Meanwhile, he's done nothing else. You'll see later in the show, Ben Shapiro actually totally agrees with Joe Biden's accomplishments or lack thereof. They love that Biden's doing nothing. So since they have no critique of him, they're like, oh, lower wages, no healthcare, we love it, right? Oh, I don't know, I got nothing left. I don't like you, F you, right? That's who they are. And finally, I am Sock in the member section says, this Schmeck guy is now considering running for office. I don't know if that's true, but that's the amazing part. We're all in an Adam McCain movie. Could that guy run for office? Of course he can. Could he win? Of course he can. On just the strength of saying F you to a lib. He owned the libs.
Yeah.
Good enough. Okay.
Like I think back on Joe the plumber, right? Like that was at least an attempt to like get into the mind of a working class human being, and that was John McCain calling out Joe the plumber, and Joe the plumber became a thing, and at least he was like a plumber. This guy, all he did, and I love the Adam McKay comparison because it is in something as ridiculous as having the president of the United States talk about the location of Santa on the NORAD site, which is like a huge military giant dollar investment that we have spent millions and millions of dollars to monitor all the goings on Earth from the satellite. And they're using it for like funsies on a time to talk to that. And this guy jumps in and says, F Joe Biden. And last thing I'll say is like, at least with the F Donald Trump comments, two things. One, the F Donald Trump comments, whenever I saw a video of someone going and blasting the F Donald Trump song, it was like at a MAGA rally. It made more sense in context. It was someone going and blowing up the scene of a place where people were being terrible. This is like kids celebrating Santa Claus. I guess that's my only last point, but I think it's absolutely.
Yeah, you're forcing me into a last point. You twisted my arm. I remember that lady who gave Donald Trump's motorcade the middle finger.
Yeah.
And I think she got fired, right? Like, how dare you? That is disrespectful to the beloved, cherished president of the United States. And that was the right-wing position.
Yeah.
She was unbelievably crass and needed to be canceled. How dare she do that to the president? And now they're all like, after president, you're for Jesus. And they genuinely believe it. So yeah, it's scary to live on the same planet as these folks, but it's also kind of amusing. They have no sense of logic or reason at all, and it's kind of hilarious.
Yep. All right, we should take a break. That's one story down. We got 4 more to go in this hour, so let's free up some time by taking a break. When we come back, we have someone who smacked grandpa on a plane, and I don't know who the good guy is in that situation. And then also,
I know who the bad guy is.
I know who the bad guy is in the next story, Ben Shapiro versus Ilhan Omar. Don't go away, we got more after this.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Brett with you guys. Fan favorite Brett Erlich, they're all over. Look at Twitch, what do they say here? Brett in the studio, woohoo, Rebel Mitch says.
Yeah.
You see that?
Wifey's loving it, having the place all to herself. The other day, last night, she just goes, stop asking me what I wanna do. Just, I don't wanna do anything. I want you to go to the other side of the house and leave me alone in peace for a minute, because I just talk the whole time.
Well, that's really funny, because apparently the chat is defending your wife after your quote, I haven't been around human beings. So that happened.
He's so truer than he purposed.
She's currently starting hashtag Let's Go Brett.
I have no defense.
Okay. All right. Except one, of course, he meant, and a lovely one and a brilliant, great one. Okay. All right. That's my save. All right. Let's go.
All right. Let's take flight. Okay. Since the start of the pandemic, we've seen countless videos of confrontations on planes where there's an anti-masker, and usually you know who the anti-masker is and who's not. In this situation, there was a pro-masker with her mask off, punching grandpa in the face. We have the full explanation, but without further ado, I want to play for you the video that you might have seen, flying around out there. Take a look.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, put your mask on. Who invited you to come
I'm eating and I can
drink your ass up? Don't you dare talk to me like that.
God damn it.
You stand your ass up. Stand your ass up.
Sit down, Karen.
Do you want the police to meet you on the ground?
What about him?
Mask up. Now.
Mask up.
Put your mask up.
I'm eating and drinking. I'm eating and drinking.
Tell him to
You got
mask
your
up.
mask down, bitch.
Sir,
I did.
stop it again.
Now you're going to jail. That's assault. You're going to jail. As soon as we get in Atlanta, you're going to jail. Karen. Hey, spit on me. Now you're double going to jail.
Put your mask
Put
on.
yours on.
I won't put my mask on. I will put my mask on when you put your mask on.
At least she was negotiating there at the end. She was trying to negotiate a peace. Cenk, first we have the full information about who she is and what went down, what inspired this this back and forth. But first, reactions to the video.
Yeah. So look, we're knee deep or neck deep in the culture wars, right? So you don't have your mask on. That means you have a certain identity, and the other person has a different identity. So now we fight, right? And that's what happens all across America. And the media has gotten us to hate one another, right? And look, honestly, we're a part of that too, because we got to fight back against the other side. And a lot of Democrats, 99% of Democrats lay down and let the Republicans run all over them. So we got to fight back. But it does lead to nonsense like this. This is insane, okay? The person at fault here is not the one that seems to be ostensibly on our side, telling the guy to mask up. She is definitely wrong. So unlike other parts of the media, we are actually willing to tell you things that are true, even if it looks like the person is on our side. It doesn't matter, okay? You're not on our side, by the way, if you're telling someone to mask up and you don't have your mask on. Like, that's right there instantly, you're a jackass. That makes no sense. And I'm not gonna abide by complete irrationality, yelling at people at the top of your lungs and spitting on them to mask up while you're not masked and spitting on them. That's insane and totally intolerable. She should definitely be arrested. And by the way, I'll go further. I don't know why the guy didn't have his mask on, and I don't care. I might care if I had my mask on and we're in a different context, right? But people say, no, he shouldn't curse and shouldn't call her terrible things. Look, you got a crazy person in your grill. I don't give a damn if you say things that are quote unquote inappropriate. So right now, Brett, I'm waiting for more information, but I got it scored 100-0 against her.
I do want to point out that I did not expect Gramps to call her a Karen. I didn't expect the vernacular to make it there.
Yeah.
But it did, and I want to say, way to go, Grandpa, or I keep calling him Grandpa because we don't know his name. RTW is what he's referred to in all the reports. But this guy, it's just all I'm thinking as a result of this is I do not want to get in a plane in the next 3 years. Because everybody seems to be so on edge. I feel horrible for the flight attendants. A lot of flight attendants are in really, really precarious positions for their own health, where they have to, I heard yesterday that there's communications from headquarters at various airlines where they're saying if you've been exposed to someone with COVID, if you don't have any symptoms, you gotta go work. You don't get time off to go get a test. There is no help that you're getting. And meanwhile, the CEO of Delta is telling the CDC, you guys need to cut down how much time people have off. I feel horrible for everyone who has to work the flight. As everybody's I feel your instinct is when something like this goes down, you're I hate that this is someone's workplace and they have to endure this. But let's get to the details of what happened according to the report. The woman was arrested. The man, per the complaint, told authorities that Cornwall, the woman, made a Rosa Parks remark to a flight attendant while returning to the bathroom. Okay, we'll get to what that remark was in a second. The flight attendant asked Cornwall to find an open seat until beverage service was completed, the complaint said. Now, Cornwall responded to the flight attendant, quote, "What am I, Rosa Parks?" The man believed Cornwall's comment was inappropriate, and he responded to Cornwall that she, quote, "isn't black, this isn't Alabama, and this isn't a bus." I don't know what airline it was on because it might have been an Airbus. But when the flight landed, Cornwall was arrested and charged for the assault. Here's part of the Atlanta Police Department statement. The disturbance led to the injury of fellow passengers and Delta employees. Based on the statements gathered and visible evidence, officers detained Ms. Cornwall and contacted the on-call FBI agent. FBI agents responded and took custody of Ms. Cornwall. So she said something about being discriminated against because she's Rosa Parks, because she was told to go to the back of the plane, essentially. Cenk, whose side you on now?
Now I'm in favor of her being double arrested. You're Rosa Parks? No, you are no Rosa Parks. You saw the video when we showed it again. She's got her hand cocked like this, ready to punch a guy who appears to be considerably older than her, right?
She spits on him.
And she spits on him and she slaps him. There is no ands, ifs, or buts. This is not even close. And honestly, I guess the way the culture wars break out, obviously we have no idea of their personal politics. And my guess is that it probably gets confusing, which side they're on and which issues, etc. And I can't perfectly tell, but ostensibly she's on the you should wear mask side, and he's presumably on the you shouldn't wear mask side. And so that's why I say, presumably we would be on her side of the divide in the culture wars, but not if you're not actually on our side and you don't wear the mask and you assault people, which immediately means you're not an actual progressive. You can't conduct a battle of ideas and you get into something physical that's insane. So there's just a ton of reasons why this is so out of bounds.
He said he was drinking and eating or something. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But it is just, it is insane. Because the one fact of the culture wars, no matter what side someone's on, is just the overall climate of discourse in America has so many people convinced of one thing, and it's that they're right. Half the people are wrong, but all the sane people believe what they believe themselves. And so they look around and they're kind of taking stock of who they think is sane. They're making wild assumptions of everyone. And then they're basically concluding that I could spit on this man and not get in trouble for it in a plane. That's her thing. She wants him to face consequences. Meanwhile, she's swinging her hands and spitting on an elderly guy who we all know the elderly were essentially like, the most vulnerable to dying from this thing.
Yeah, so Karen is usually used against right-wingers who want to call the manager on a black guy, but it's not always racial and it's not always on a black guy, and they're apparently not always right-wingers. Because I don't know, again, what her politics is, but if she's pro-mask, maybe she's a left-wing Karen. But she's definitely a Karen in that she feels entitled. I feel entitled to get you to do what I want, okay? And I feel entitled to punch you in the face and spit on you and have no consequences because I matter and you don't.
Yeah.
Now, as progressives, we hate it when the right wing does that to us. We certainly should not do it back to them. Everyone obviously matters. I hope we can at least still agree to that, but I'm not positive. And yeah, this is just, and we show this to you because unfortunately, it is an extreme case, but it is emblematic as well. Violence on the flights have gone up tremendously, 5,779 unruly passenger incidents already this year, way up from last year. 72% of the incidents are over masks. So we are fighting this cultural war very literally, and we're fighting it in the skies as well, which is kind of a dangerous place to fight it. So yes, we need to engage the battle of ideas if we're on the left. We can't shirk away from an ideological fight, but making it physical is insane for everyone involved.
Yeah, and this is like Delta's position on it. You read the stats. They are undeniable that there's been an uptick in these incidents. Graphic 5, this is Delta Airlines statement. Situations like these are rare for the vast majority of our customers, and Delta has zero tolerance for unruly behavior at our airports and aboard our aircraft. Vast majority of the customers, yes, but it's becoming more and more common when you fly these so-called friendly skies, where, let's face it, everybody would be miserable in a plane if it weren't a pandemic on. Everyone always self-medicates with alcohol, and alcohol, if you are the least bit frustrated, a lot of people, they act out in that situation, and it's really rough.
Okay, super last thing. The lines are all getting blurred, guys, because there are absurd rules. So when you have to wear the mask going into a restaurant, and then you could take it off immediately 1 foot later.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Let's just acknowledge that. And if somebody's frustrated with that rule, that doesn't mean they're a right winger or a Trump supporter. You don't know exactly where people stand. Stop making assumptions as well. I know it's near impossible, but at some point we have to be decent again to one another.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Ben Shapiro versus Ilhan Omar. Ben Shapiro's really grown as a person. He used to just attack Ilhan Omar for being Muslim and comparing her to the terrorists who shot up the synagogue in San Diego, but he's really evolved as a person. He's still attacking her, but this time he's attacking her for what she said to Joe Manchin on his hypocrisy over Build Back Better. Now, his accusations against Omar are still made up, but as you'll see how it plays out, he thinks this guy from Beverly Hills, California, who is well funded by giant corporations, he knows what the people of West Virginia want. Here is Ben Shapiro talking trash on Ilhan, playing a clip of her, and then finishing his point. Take a look.
For a $7 trillion package, because AOC and Ilhan Omar wanted it, these people are out of their minds. They truly do seem to think that like small boroughs in New York govern the entire country, and that senators are not answerable to their home states. And Ilhan Omar joined the crew. She slammed Manchin as well. Here is the horrible congresswoman from Minnesota.
The excuses that he just made, I think, are a complete bullshit. It is really disheartening to hear him say that he has been trying to get there for the people of West Virginia, because that's a complete lie.
Well, I mean, if the people of West Virginia don't love Ilhan Omar, I mean, wow. I mean, when she speaks, the people of West Virginia listen. That is definitely a state, West Virginia, where Ilhan Omar, I'm sure, is wildly popular. Her perspectives are super popular in West Virginia. Again, the delusional nature of progressives who think they have a national program, as opposed to the reality of politics, which is you're always cobbling together a coalition to do incremental things. That is most of politics. And that it turns out Joe Biden did not have a mandate for anything remotely like this. It's amazing. And they will continue deluding themselves along these lines, the progressives, which means that Joe Biden should get with the program, right? If he had any brains at all, if he didn't have mush for brains at this point, which, I mean, physically mush for brains, then he would probably be pushing for a piecemeal approach to a lot of this legislation. But I don't know if he can do it.
There's Emma at the end because we saw this on Majority Report, hat tip to them. But definitely, okay, so there's a couple things. One, he's saying that West Virginians do not support the Build Back Better plan. Two, he's saying that progressives are wildly out of touch with America and have something that only works in the boroughs of New York and ostensibly Minnesota. And then there's some other stuff that he gets to. Third, he thinks it should be a piecemeal approach to fixing these. So Cenk, those 3 points, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so look guys, we've told you 100 times that the people of West Virginia actually want Build Back Better. And I'm gonna give you stats about that in a second. And we're gonna actually prove our case with facts, not feelings. But what Ben Shapiro is doing there, let's not bury the lead, is really kind of an interesting admission on his part. Because he didn't say that the people of West Virginia, according to the polling, would be against Ilhan Omar's position. He just said the people of West Virginia are not gonna agree with Ilhan Omar. Why? Why wouldn't they agree with Ilhan Omar? For example, she's for higher wages. We know through the polling that the people of West Virginia, unsurprisingly, are for higher wages, including a higher minimum wage. And that's a policy issue where they would definitely agree with Ilhan Omar. But that's not what Ben's saying. He's saying they would never agree with her. Why? You know it. Because she's Muslim, she's black, she's a woman, she wears a headdress, right? All of those things. So Ben Shapiro is implicitly saying there, without any question, he thinks the people of West Virginia are racist and bigoted. So just looking at Ilhan Omar, they would say, I don't agree with her because I don't like blacks, Muslims, women, etc. right? Now, I didn't say that. You saw the video, you saw Ben very clearly implying that. And he's probably projecting. I don't know if that's true. By the way, I'm open to the idea that that might be true. That unfortunately there might be enough racism and bigotry in West Virginia where they wouldn't even hear her out. They just go, Muslim woman, no way. I don't know. Ben seems to know, he thinks he knows, right? And at a bare minimum, he is definitely projecting his own views onto the voters of West Virginia. She's a black Muslim woman. I would never listen to her on anything. It doesn't matter if she has my best interests in mind.
And also, like, Ben Shapiro is a Los Angeles elitist. He couldn't be more. Isn't he like this rich kid from Beverly Hills, California?
Yes.
Yes.
No, but no, he moved out of California to save taxes.
Where did he move to? Did he move to Nash Vegas or whatever?
Yeah.
Go to Nashville and tell me that Nashville is like super hip now.
It doesn't matter, but you're right. I mean, it's funny because like the Jimmy Dores of the world would say about it, people like Emma, oh, she grew up in a cul-de-sac. It just means dead end. It doesn't mean anything, cul-de-sac. And so they're like, the right wingers will love to say, oh yeah, they're rich and elitist. And the fake left wing joins in that. And what happened? Max Blumenthal's dad is the most centrist corporate Democrat in the history of America, Sidney Blumenthal, right? And Ben Shapiro is an elitist who grew up in Beverly Hills with a silver spoon up his ass.
And Jimmy's a cop. Jimmy's a cop. Jimmy Dore's a cop. Like every time I sat next to him on this panel, it was like, my whole family's cops. I grew up as cops. Everything's a cop.
He grew up in a cop cul-de-sac.
It's so frustrating. It's such a non-starter argument. The argument's a cul-de-sac. It's a dead end.
Anyway, so that's Shapiro's. Look, I don't care about his background. I care about his ideas. It's just the irony of him with his faux populism. Okay, you know who's a real populist? Someone who can't say faux populist. Anyways, back to the main argument. So are the people of West Virginia with Ben Shapiro, or are they with Ilhan Omar? Well, let's find out. Let's go to graphic 1 here. This is Data for Progress. They did a poll of West Virginians. Well, that makes sense. This support for Build Back Better, its key provisions and its pay-fors isn't limited, they explain, to solidly blue states. In West Virginia specifically, all provisions of the bill, including clean energy investments, are supported by at least 60% of voters. This includes investments in long-term care. That's a plus 78. That's not 78 approval, that's a plus 78. I've never seen anything like that. Net support, expanding Medicare coverage, plus 70%. Childcare investments, plus 53%. Paid leave, plus 46%. Universal pre-K, plus 42%. And clean energy investments, a stunning plus 28% in the state of West Virginia. So the voters of West Virginia most definitely agree with Ilhan Omar. Get that through your thick skulls, you racist pricks, pretending you speak for the voters of West Virginia.
Yeah, and it's not just West Virginia, by the way, polling from Data for Progress. And there's a bunch of polls that essentially mimic this exact finding. The overwhelming voter support in key states for Build Back Better, including Georgia, 53% net support, North Carolina, plus 50, Pennsylvania, plus 46, Michigan plus 46, West Virginia plus 43, Wisconsin 39, Arizona 37%. So it has more support in a lot of these are swing states, but like it is an insanely high amount of support. Why? Something that Republicans do all the time. They go and they test messages and they find polling data that supports a certain kind of message and they repeat that message non-freaking stop. I thought that in West Virginia, all the arguments for the for the clean energy subsidies were the hardest to make because you had to convince entire sectors of the energy industry to change their tune. But no, as you reported last week, the coal union is like, no, we probably want to shore up our union's power into the future. So please, please invest in different kinds of energy because we're already in the union and maybe we can switch over to a different section of it as different energy jobs, this time clean energy jobs happen. So every step of the way, Ben Shapiro is utterly freaking wrong. And this is their hegemon of argument and debate on the left. And it doesn't make any damn sense.
Yeah, their idea of intellectual is, Muslim, there's no way we agree with her. That's intellectual, hilarious. Seems like you're very deep in your feelings. Last couple of things here, guys. We have a correction, apparently. Ben Shapiro has moved to Boca, a populist hotbed.
There it is.
Boca in Florida, are you kidding me? Anyway, I don't know and I don't care where he lives, but that's what we hear. Okay, so the last things are, look, he says Biden has no mandate. No, and Emma and they talked about this in Majority Report. He arguably had too big a mandate. He didn't want that big a mandate because he's not a progressive at all. So he wins by 7 million votes. He's got the entire Democratic Party behind him, and he promised all these things he doesn't actually want to do, like $15 minimum wage, negotiating drug prices, etc. And he's like, God damn it, what do I do with this mandate? I have to somehow destroy it. Hey, Joe Manchin, Chris Cinema, can you help me trash my own mandate? And let's all pretend the Republicans are right, and let's trash our own theoretical agenda, which is actually a progressive agenda we don't believe in at all, and our donors told us that we are not allowed to do. So what did he do? He cut, and Joe Manchin helped him cut the $3.5 trillion bill into a $1.75 trillion bill, now a $0 bill because it doesn't exist. But he, at 1.75, lost nearly half its popularity because all Republican, Independent, and Democratic voters all wanted it to be higher, not lower. They wanted more for the average American worker, not less. And when you took out things like lowering drug prices, well, then they're like, well, what the hell? You just screwed me. You said you were gonna do lower drug prices, and now you're rubbing it in my face that you're not. Now I don't like it as much, okay? And so that is, and hence, and Ben Shapiro here sounds just like the mainstream media. All this rebel, right-wing, intellectual, dark, no, that's a corporate media talking point 101. Let's shred this thing until people are super pissed. Let's give them the crumbs and then kick them while they're down. Okay, so why don't you just go work at ABC or CNN? That's exactly Jake Tapper 101. You're not a rebel, you're not some sort of right-wing populist. You're a very standard, cheesy propagandist for corporate rule. The only thing he said that I agree with is, he's like, oh, they should do it piecemeal. Deal. Put up negotiating drug prices and have everybody vote on it. I want to see every Republican vote against it. They're all against it, every single Republican. It polls at about 90% in the country. Almost all Republican voters want it. Go ahead, Ben Shapiro. Put it up in West Virginia.
Put it up in Florida where you live.
Yeah, go ahead, put it up in Boca. See how it does, okay? Should Medicare be allowed to negotiate drug prices? I already know the answer. It's 88% say yes, okay? Go ahead, let's vote on it. Joe Manchin, Kristen Sinema, I want to see you vote against it. And I want to see every single Republican scum, corrupt politician vote for higher drug prices because they get paid by the drug companies. Go ahead, I dare you. He won't do any of that. He'll hide behind the culture wars and racism and bigotry because that's all he's got.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we've got some scandal trying to find a replacement for Meghan McCain on The View. And then is Madison Cawthorn the victim of a honeypot scheme? Don't go away. We'll be back after this. We're reading your comments.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Brett with you guys, and also Null Unit, because they just joined. Hit the join button below on YouTube. You become a young Turk, and you're part of us. You help spread the news, actual facts and truth, and try to fight for progressive change. One funny comment from a member, Occam's Taser, said, no one talks about Rosa Parks' lesser known boxing career.
There you go.
Good point. I think that's probably what the person on the flight was thinking when she compared herself to Rosa Parks. Okay,
All
Brett.
right. Okay. There's no one quite like Meghan McCain, at least reportedly. That's what the executives at ABC are experiencing when they're trying to replace her. Now, this is where things are at. It's a hilarious story that reveals just how messed up Republicans are in general when you can't find one that is just the right Goldilocks zone for insanity. Okay, so before taking off the holidays, the 4 longstanding View hosts, according to Politico, had a message for executive producer Brian Tata. We're tired of the rotating cast of Republican guest hosts. Since she left, and that was 6 months ago, I think, these are the people that they have tried. So you'll see S.E. Cupp, Alyssa Farah, who's an ex-White House comms director, Morgan Ortagus, who is an ex-State Department spokesperson, Condoleezza Rice, Carly Fiorina, who should have been the vice president right alongside Ted Cruz, and then Gretchen Carlson. They're also gonna try Barry Weiss and Lisa Ling coming up, but those don't fit the conservative angles that they're looking for. But here is what is being said behind the scenes, according to Politico. Sources close to the show said that the search has stalled as executives struggle to find conservative cast member who checks all the right boxes. They will not consider a Republican who is a denier of the 2020 election, embrace the January 6 riots, or is seen as flirting too heavily with fringe conspiracy theorists or the MAGA wing of the GOP. But at the same time, the host must have credibility with mainstream Republicans, many of whom still support Donald Trump. 2 last quick quotes. So the problem is that they bring people on under the mantle that this woman is a conservative when they're never Trump, so they don't represent the country, said one of the rotating guests, one of the people ostensibly that we just showed the picture of. And then finally, a former staffer told Politico, they're really looking for a unicorn. They want someone who's gonna fight, but not too hard, because they don't want it to be ugly and bickering. Sure they don't.
Well, so that last point though is exactly right. They're looking for something that's impossible and actually, more importantly, pointless. So you're looking for a Republican that doesn't represent any actual Republicans. Let's keep it real, let's be honest, right? 93% of Republicans voted for Trump after knowing the disaster of COVID and how he dealt with it, and how we thought we should inject bleach, how we thought we should ban Muslims, how we thought the people of Puerto Rico had the hurricane coming because they were lazy. I mean, we can go on and on, a million insane things that he did, and including racist, bigoted things. I mean, he drew a new path with a hurricane with a Sharpie because he thought it helped him politically, and put it up as if it was a real map. The guy's a freaking lunatic. And 93% of Republicans said, attaboy. And then these Democrats, they're total liars. They say, oh no, it's okay. We got the 7% of Republicans, that's why we won. That's actually completely misleading. I just saw a poll, a really interesting study that showed that during the Trump years, more Democrats flipped into being Republicans than Republicans flipped into being Democrats. So those mythical Republican suburb voters that Pelosi and Biden are constantly talking about, it's always been a fantasy. It's always been an excuse to do what their corporate donors want. There are no unicorns of Republicans who are perfectly reasonable and just greedy. They just want tax cuts, right? That's all they want, and they're God-fearing, good, moral people, and they are just aghast at what Trump has done. And of course, they don't think the election is stolen. That is not a thing. It doesn't exist. If it does, it only exists in elite circles where you're all obsessed with your tax cuts and nothing else at all. But real Republicans believe crazy stuff. So either you're gonna have someone who says that, or you're not gonna have a Republican, period.
Yeah, they had some people on there for a while who were like libertarian-ish, and obviously, what was the woman's name who went to Fox and Friends and teased out her hair a bunch? No, there was another one, and anyways, there was someone who was in the middle and then went to Fox and Friends and instantly went, Jedediah Bila, who instantly went crazy off the deep end. She was like the I'm a lawyer voice of reason on kind of like the left right, but the truth is they shoot the show in New York. All the applause lines go to the like liberal, like neoliberal talking points. And so another thing that's happening behind the scenes is they went out to someone who, Kat Timpf, reportedly, this is all rumor and delightful speculation, but Kat Timpf, who's on the Gutfeld show, and she said no because, and this is just an amazing little fact, they think that Whoopi and Joy are too mean and they bully the conservative on the panel, which is just so good because you want someone who they're trying to go out to like these real conservatives, but the conservatives are such snowflakes, they can't handle Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar.
100%. No, guys, seriously, it's like the only people that actually run this country are the donors and the advertisers, okay? Everyone else that is vaunted powerful elites are actually incredibly weak. Democratic leadership is really the weakest people I've ever seen in my entire life. But Republicans are also incredible snowflakes. Whoopi criticized me, I'm melting. Who cares? Whoopi criticizes us all the time. I love it. I think it's hilarious. I remember when she's like, how dare they call themselves the Justice Democrats? I came up with the name Justice Democrats. I love that she attacked that. She's like, what, you guys stand for justice? Goddamn right we do, Whoopi. How hard was that? Right wingers, you're so goddamn tough, you can't stand up to Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar? Just disagree, so what? And stop crying. Meghan, all she ever did was like, she'll say outrageous things. The minute somebody says, hey, that doesn't quite make sense, she's like, I am a victim. God, the right wing is so weak. It's filled to the rim with betas. And it doesn't matter if they're women or men, they're all pathetically weak. Oh, Trump came along. Oh, take my banana, alpha monkey. Please take my banana. I'm begging you. You know, you guys look so tough. Guys, look, here's what the View should do. And I actually don't want to give him this advice. I thought about emailing Joy because we worked together at Current TV. Me, Brett, and Joy did, right? And then I thought, I don't want him taking a good progressive. But if they were smart, they would actually get a good, strong progressive who would also disagree with them all the time because they're neolibs, right? And they're like, yay, capitalism and the status quo is wonderful. No one in this country loves the status quo more than Whoopi Goldberg, okay? So if you get a progressive in there, you'll get fireworks. They won't melt like a snowflake. And by the way, they'll actually represent a larger percentage of Americans than a right-winger would. And certainly a right-winger that disagrees with Trump. That represents about 1.5% of the country, right? But they'll never go in that direction because to them, a progressive disagreeing, well, how dare they? They're not, they're supposed to be under our heel. They're not, no, they don't get a voice. We want a right-winger who wants goddamn tax cuts. That's who's gonna get the voice.
Yeah, and they're correct on everything. That's the other thing, is like I've been here for a very long time. I am correct. No one can criticize my position, especially from the left. Like they can't handle that. And I just wanna say like, the magic of Meghan McCain was all the hypocrisy and like inconsistent position she took that she was completely oblivious to. Plus they accepted her having all those positions because she was royalty, because she was John McCain's kid. So they tried Abby Huntsman, Abby's like peace. And Jenna Hager-Bush is over at NBC. So you're gonna go with the other Bush twin? I don't think she's into that whole thing. They're running out of like royalty that's okay if they're baddie. Anyways, I do wanna get to this honeypot Madison Cawthorn story. We don't have a lot of time, but I do want to get to it. All right. Here's a hilarious story that I am enjoying a whole bunch, but don't care that much about, but it is absolutely fascinating what it tells about all people in all parts of media. So Madison Cawthorn and his wife are getting a divorce, which is on its face hilarious that a religious person gets divorced. I love it every second of the day after they tell us how we're not religious enough and then they get divorced. But recently a video surfaced that kind of implied that maybe Madison Cawthorn meeting his wife through this weird interaction on jumping the border from Scandinavia into Russia, also some kind of fake like CrossFit competition resulted in him meeting his wife and getting married. Maybe it was a honeypot situation, which is like spycraft 101. Anyways, here's the video that surfaced. Take a look and we'll discuss.
So me and a bunch of my friends, we went to we got to go over to very close to Russia. Went to Sweden and Norway. Then we got on a boat and went into St. Petersburg in Russia. And we just decided to take $100 each and go into a casino and see how it went. And I ended up meeting an American there who was a captain in the Army and who was originally from Miami. And so we hit it off. Later, I was down in Miami for work, and he texted me and said, "Hey, would you like to come compete in a CrossFit competition?" And so I laughed and said, well, Todd, I'm in a wheelchair. I obviously can't do CrossFit. And he said, well, just do the pull-up section. I was like, okay, sounds good. And so I show up. But anyways, it all was a sham. It was a fake CrossFit competition. He just wanted me to put me in the same room with the girl who is eventually going to become my fiance. And so we did. And her and I hit it off. And it's been a magical relationship ever since.
So the story seems to check out in one way or another. Todd Thompson, who is ostensibly the guy that he was referencing in that story, did comment on one of Christina, the soon-to-be ex-wife's photos in 2019. Here's the photo on Instagram of them having a great time together. And then if you go through the comments, you see this. Who can take credit for introducing these two? Theoretically, Todd Thomason. So there you go, you have that. There's a lot more to this, but just how hilarious it is that it seemed like if you were, this is my take on it. If you're gonna get mad at Eric Swalwell for being the victim and just harp on it because some Chinese plant talked to him, and you're not gonna talk about how sus it is that Madison Cawthorn went to a fake competition to meet this woman that he met in Russia through a guy he met in Russia. Like, I think it's hilarious that as soon as someone says anything like this, it's gonna turn completely into like, you guys are Russia, 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 and everything. Viewers were quick to comment on Cawthorn's comments, like, this seriously is word for word what Vladimir Putin would say if he was on American TV, wouldn't change a comma. He has to be reading off a teleprompter. That was from RT. That is in response to this video, which we're gonna play you right now. Take a listen.
We're hearing a bipartisan call for the idea that we could put troops on the ground, or that our fleets inside of the Black Sea could rain down destruction on the Russians. This is asinine at best. When these people believe that they're fighting in the late 1900s against the USSR, who is completely prostrate and not capable of being able to defend themselves, we would be fighting right against their doorstep and their seat of power. We've been fighting in a sandbox and in caves for the last 20 years. Meanwhile, they've been creating hypersonic missiles which could sink our entire fleet in the Black Sea.
So there you go. This is basically, I don't know, and I don't really care if he was honeypotted or not, but it is so hilarious to see Madison Cawthorn, Mr. America all day, I'm super religious, and women are earthen vessels for the Lord to impregnate and bear his seed. Like, then turning around and getting divorced and like meeting his wife in a super weird way in Russia.
Yeah, well, so first on the substance of the clip, I know that it's tangential to the story, but maybe it isn't. That's the whole point of the honeypot conspiracy theory, right? Which is that he marries this woman that he found through this, what appears to be a Russian asset, right? But I don't know at all. We'll come back to that in a second, right? And then all of a sudden, he's against military intervention in Ukraine. Now, it's one thing to say, hey, I don't think we should do military intervention. I don't think we should do military intervention, right? It's another thing to say the Russians are too strong. You got to make a coffee brand out of them. They're just too strong. Like, oh, they would sink us in the Black Sea right away. They would kill us. They're way better than us. I prostrate myself at the feet of Vladimir Putin. he didn't need to say all that, right? Yeah. It was kind of weird. And so, guys, is it weird that he got invited to a casino in St. Petersburg? By the way, there's no gambling in St. Petersburg. So he had to get invited to like something that the government sanctions while, for the powerful and the elite, because you can't just walk into a casino in St. Petersburg. It doesn't exist, right? So he gets sent to a private casino that the government allows, meets a mysterious American from Miami who used to be in the military. He then gets invited, that guy then invites him to a fake competition where he introduces him to this woman, right? And then they get married, and then all of a sudden, Cawthorn is saying how awesome Russia is and how mighty Russia is and how we couldn't possibly mess with Russia because we're impotent America. Okay, but I swear to God, I have no idea if the Todd dude, his name is really Todd, if he's an agent, not an agent, an asset, and if there was a real marriage, I have no idea. But I do know this, we're not talking about Swalwell anymore. So we covered that story. The Chinese, okay, the Chinese government's funny, okay? They send somewhat attractive women and American men melt instantly. They did the right wingers, they did the left wingers, but Swalwell never gave away anything. Swalwell never said we should bow down to China. But Cawthorn's much, much weaker. So he immediately, he's like, I went to St. Petersburg, got hooked up with a bride. I love Russia, motherland, Russia. Like, come on, that was easy.
And it's just so stupid that he just walks right into it. And the reason that, and again, I don't care. It is hilarious. It is not important to my life or anyone's life whatsoever. I'm not gonna go too far down the rabbit hole of conspiracy and whether or not this was an actual honeypot. Sounds like one. It sounds like an episode of Archer where the guy is too stupid to realize he's getting honeypotted. And then also, it reminds me of how tenuous a connection needs to be to anything for it to become a central premise of right-wing insanity. And they have to go and draw, they have to pull at strings and figure out and put these two things together, have nothing to do with each other. And suddenly there is a basement pizza sex ring of drinking baby's blood. They have to piece together from which letter in what word was accidentally capitalized. That's how they get to their conspiracy theories. And here's Madison Cawthorn out there being like, yeah, definitely. I was supposed to be in Sweden. Some guy brought me into Russia and I met a woman. It's just so
and they turn around and they're like, but that one's not real.
Yeah, Trump, here's a photo of, so Hillary Clinton's drinking blood. And meanwhile, here's a photo of Trump and Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell together holding a baby and nothing.
Okay, to be fair, there are multiple pictures of Trump with Maxwell and Epstein, but none holding him. Yeah, just to be clear. Okay, but they're like, yeah, you take the ivermectin, and then you take the body antibodies, and you take this, and then you do a little zinc, and then you rub it all over your face. The vaccine, no, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, by the way, no. Poll for you guys, Madison Cawthorn. Yes, you got honeypotted. No, nothing fishy here. We don't really care, but we're amused. So we did a poll anyway, TYT.com/polls. Have fun with it. You tell us what you think. Don't worry, nobody's holding you to it, and we're not going to publish it like it's, yes, well, the people have voted that it was a honeypot, so it was. Okay, we're not Fox News. All right, we'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.